Hey everyone, I'm Hannah. I'm from Powassan, Ontario, and I'm a member of the North Bay and Madwell Algonquin First Nation. I have been doing beadwork since 2017, and since then I've made a little business where I sell my beadwork through my Instagram page, Hannah's Beads. Lately I've been working with Create to Learn to make my first ever tutorial, and I'm super excited about it. So in this video, I'll show you guys from start to finish how I made this beaded lanyard so you can learn how to make your own at home. So I'll break this down into 4 parts. First, we'll talk about supplies and how to prep all your materials. In the second part, I will do a step-by-step guide for rope stitch and show you some different versions of this stitch as well. And then in the third part, we'll talk about patterning your lanyard, and then we'll finish it off by attaching our keyring and sewing on our leather. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and let's get started! Alright, so let's take a look at all the supplies you'll need, starting with rope. You can use some that's bigger or smaller than this, whatever size you want to use is good. When I was first starting out with this stitch, I used a way thicker rope because it was a lot easier to hold on to. But now I just use this stuff. I got it from the dollar store. I think it's a pretty common size. I also have a marker for marking the middle point on my rope and a ruler for measuring it out. You'll also need a pair of fabric scissors and some beading thread. I like using wildfire. I find it doesn't tangle and it doesn't break as much as some other threads do. I also have a lighter just for cinching the ends of my thread. And for beads, these are all the colors I'm going to be using. I'm just using size 10 seed beads. You can use whatever size you like. I have 2 types of needles here, a size 10 beading needle and a size 10 Glover needle. Make sure to match the size of your needle with the size of your beads. And you'll also need a keyring. And for attaching the keyring, we're going to use some leather. You don't need this much, you just need a little tiny piece, like that big. And also using a little bit of glue to hold the leather in place as you're sewing it is super helpful. But those are all the supplies. So the first thing we have to do is figure out how long you want to make your lanyard. One that's like full length and goes around your neck would be about 17 inches long, or you could just measure the rope out on yourself. But I'm just going to make a little guy today. I'm going to make one that's about 6 inches long, and you have to leave a little bit of extra rope length at the ends so you have something to attach the keyring onto when you're done beading. So when you're beading, you can either pick a pattern and go all the way around with it, or what I like to do is make it symmetrical on both sides. So I have an example of a previous project here I can show you. So for this one, my middle point was right up there. So I just made up a pattern along this side, and then when I reached my middle point, I just started copying what I did on the first side, so the pattern's mirrored. So to do that, I just put a little dot right on my middle point, and then I know that when I reach it, I can just start repeating whatever I did on the first side. So now that your rope is all ready, you can go ahead and thread your needle. I always run the thread between my teeth first so it's flat and I can get through the needle easier. And then I just pinch it between my fingers and bam. And then I get a lot of thread on there. And then I just cut it off and tie a little knot at the end of my thread. And then I also like to cinch the ends of my thread with my lighter because sometimes I'm just too strong and when I pull my thread sometimes it can just pop right through the rope. So if I just burn the ends of the thread, then there's no way that the knot can come undone or it can move out of place or anything like that. And then I also cinch the ends of my rope so that they don't fray. And now all our materials are ready and we're ready to start beading. So the first step in doing rope stitch is to bring your needle right through the rope, being sure to leave that extra little bit of room at the end there, and then you just pull your thread all the way through. And now you're going to have to figure out how many beads it takes to make one full loop around your rope. A good trick for this is that it usually takes 10 size 10 beads, 11 size 11 beads, or 8 size 8 beads to make one full circle. So I'm adding my 10 beads on and just sliding them all the way to the end of my thread so they're sitting on my rope like that. And then I twirl the rope away from me like this so that my beads wrap around. And then I just slide the thread underneath my thumb so I can hold on to them like that. The next step is going to be to push your needle through the first few beads. So depending on which way you twirled the rope will determine which way you have to push your needle. So this is me twirling it towards me just to show you what it looks like the other way. When you twirl it towards you, you'll be pushing your needle away from you. I find this really uncomfortable for some reason. I don't know if it's because I'm left-handed, but I twirl the rope away from me so that I'm pushing my needle towards me. So I'm going through the first few beads, and look at that. It makes a full circle. Beautiful. Now I'm just tightening it into place a little bit. And your next step is going to be bringing your needle from one side of the beads up through the rope to the other side of the beads, just like that. This secures your beads into place. So you just give it a little pull. And now you have one full circle of beads around your rope. So I'll do that again. I'm adding my 10 beads. Bringing them all the way down. And then I hold the thread in one hand and twirl the rope with my other hand. And then I go through the first few beads. It creates a circle around my rope, and then I go back up through my rope. So I'll show you this one more time before I show you a different variation of this stitch. So again, I'm adding on my 10 beads, sliding them all the way down so they're sitting on top of the rope, holding the thread in one hand and twirling the rope away from me in my other hand, sliding that thread under my thumb so I can hold it in place, and going through the first few beads. And then going back up through my rope where my next row will begin. So I also want to show you guys this other version of rope stitch. The only difference between this version and the one I just showed you is that you actually go through the rope before you connect with your last few beads. So this allows you to do more than one row at a time. I'm actually putting on 30 beads here, so I'm doing 3 rows at once. So it's good to know if you're trying to get a project done really quick, but it also means that it's going to be less tight than the first version where you're securing every single row. So I'm going through my rope first, and then I'm going through those last few beads. So that means my next row is actually going to start right where those beads left off. So instead of making complete circles, this version actually just makes one long spiral. Now, since it's a spiral, it makes it really easy to see where one color ends and another color begins. So I actually did this technique on this project, and you can see there that my colors don't perfectly match up because they're not perfect circles. It's just one long spiral. So that's why I don't really use this stitch as much anymore, but I just wanted to show you guys for fun. So anyways, back to what I'm doing here. I'm adding my 10 beads on. And I'm sliding them all the way down my thread, holding the thread in one hand and twirling the rope. And then I go back through my first few beads to make a full circle. And then I go up through my rope. And that is how you do rope stitch. So I have 8 rows of red on here now, and I have a lot of colors that I want to fit into this lanyard. I want to make sort of a rainbow, so my next color is going to be orange, but instead of adding a solid row of orange in right away, I'm going to add a transition row in first. So that means I'm just going to add a row of alternating reds and oranges before I do my solid rows of orange. So this just blends your colors together nicely and makes sort of an ombre. So I'm just adding my same 10 beads but with red, orange, and then after that I'll do a solid row of orange. So that's what my transition from red to orange looks like. And my next color is going to be yellow. So now I'm going to do a transition row of orange and yellow before I do my solid rows of yellow. And I'm just going to continue doing this for every new color I add. Okay, so I've reached my middle point. I've done the rainbow thing twice, and I also put in some black and gold. I didn't do the transition rows between the black and gold, so you can see that they stand out a lot more, whereas all the other colors sort of blend together. And I'm going to put one black row right on top of my middle point for fun, and then after that it's easy. I'm just copying exactly what I did on the first side. So I'm running out of thread, so I'll show you guys how I add on a new piece. So I just go up through the rope and then I take my needle off, and then I grab a new piece of thread and I hold one end of it in my mouth, and then I tie this new piece of thread onto my old piece of thread. And then I just do a little double knot. Trim off the excess, and then I'll burn those little stray threads away so that they're hidden. And now you can just thread your needle with a new piece of thread and go right through the rope where you left off. When you're done beading, you're just going to sew the two ends of your rope together. Knot your thread and then trim off all that excess thread. And then I'm also going to trim my ropes too. And now you need to cut out a little rectangular piece of leather just big enough to cover the ends of your rope. Feed your keyring through that little piece of leather. And then to help hold the leather in place while I sew it, I just put a little dab of glue on each side of my rope ends. And I put that leather into place. Now you're going to use your glover needle to sew up each side of the leather. I always start from the inside so that my knot is hidden. It's kind of tricky to push the needle through the leather, so a thimble would probably be useful. And I'm sewing up the other side as well. And lastly, when each side of your leather is sewn up, I just put a couple stitches right at the top as well, starting from underneath the leather again so that my knot is hidden. And I go right through the rope so that the leather is secured onto my rope. And now you're finished, and you have a beautiful beaded lanyard to show off to all of your friends. So that is the end of my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all, please send me a message on my Instagram account at Hannah's Beads. And I would also love to see your finished project, so send me some photos. If you want to check out some more great tutorials, follow Create to Learn. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and I hope you all have a great day.